And she was like, "Stop, everyone! This is Magic. This is my photographer. He came from Poland. He's amazing." And the girls were like, "Yeah, we know. We follow him already." And that was the moment I was like, "Holy shit!" Like they all know me, and they feel super comfortable, like because they feel like they know me.
The goal isn't to live forever. The goal is to create something that will.
Welcome to Perspective, a podcast for wedding creatives, where we sit down often with a special guest and talk about our many years of experience in the wedding industry so that you can learn from us and to grow your own wedding business. This is episode 3, season 3, and we're bringing on hat-wearing, space-traveling hipster Magic Suwalowski. Let's find out more about Magic. Is he a man or an interdimensional spirit? We're still not sure. But let's hear about his journey, what it's like being a Sony ambassador, a YouTuber, and so much more. This episode is, of course, sponsored by With Jack, and for a limited time only, beans.ie. So, Greg, what are we drinking?
We are drinking some Proud Mary coffee beans today. Obviously sent over by the sponsor beans.ie. And we're speaking to Mark from Beans, and he was saying that it's an Australian roaster.
Yep.
And they do some really crazy things with their brewing in the cafe. But this is the first time we're drinking it, and is it Guatemalan you've got?
It's a Honduras.
We're drinking the Honduras, and we're just going to brew it up on the Chemex. Quite simple, and just see how it is.
I didn't pass you your glass. I do apologize.
And then maybe next week we'll try it using their crazy recipe.
Yes. As photographers and filmmakers and obviously business owners, we know the power of stories, and beans.ie do too. Beans.ie started because they knew there were so many stories to tell about the world of coffee, and not just about the regions or the varieties, but about the people behind the beans. You know, the roasters and us, the drinkers. This is the most flexible coffee subscription that we've ever used, showcasing some of the top roasters around the world who are bringing something different to the table. Look, guys, we know you've been listening to us talk for years about what we're drinking at our podcast table, but now you can join us. Curate your own monthly subscription from an ever-changing list of beautiful coffees, and because we love you so much, we've got a promo code for you. Perspective15 gets you 15% off your first order. That is Perspective 15 for coffees with stories sent straight to your door. Ooh, that's hard with a mask on. Doing that. So we're drinking Proud Mary, like Greg said, the old mate. Magic, how are you?
I'm very good. Thanks so much, guys, for having me on the podcast. Finally, actually, because I think we've been talking about it for a while.
Yeah. It really has been a while, actually, and we're like, I've been looking forward to this for ages. I'm excited for today's episode. So it's gonna be good.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Have you got anything over there that you're drinking in particular, Magic?
Water. I have to come clean with you guys. I'm not a coffee drinker. So you could give me like the best coffee next to the most shitty coffee, and I would ask you to put milk in it, sugar in it, and make, milk and sugar with like a soft taste of coffee from it, and wouldn't, recognize any difference between those. But my wife, she's a big coffee drinker, so from time to time she's making coffee for me, and I'm enjoying. But maybe my tongue doesn't have enough receptors to distinguish the awesomeness of coffee.
Well, I mean, we've been drinking it for a while, but to be honest, I don't drink enough water myself. So, I don't know. I think that's probably a wise decision that you're drinking drinking water, I mean.
Yeah. That's,
Yeah, so you mentioned your wife. How is the family? We all good?
Very, very good. They're all good. It's it's a weird time of the century, I guess.
Yeah.
It's been over a year. I have 4 kids, so 2 of my kids are at home and 2 of my kids are actually at school and kindergarten.
Right.
So we have like the semi-online classes right now happening. But for the most of the time of the year, we had 4 of them at home all the time, and we couldn't get outside. And that wasn't very healthy for, the family life.
Yeah, I get you. It can be really tough, especially when you're like, we're still homeschooling my eldest. My other 2 are in school and nursery now, which is good. But it's quite a challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, not easy, definitely. Happy, like at least half of them are back in school. It's better for them. It's better for us. It's better for everyone.
Yes, indeed. Kind of feels like we're kind of moving forward as well.
Yep.
But well, a digital hug for everyone, all the family. I'm doing my big arm hug thing here. So Magic, we actually met in person way up north, and I don't know if you remember this, but we were having dinner together, and we were talking to Mark and everyone, and I just looked over, and your phone flashed, and for some reason I saw Rick and Morty on it, and I was like, oh, this guy likes Rick and Morty. Yes. And that's when I decided, this guy's awesome. He's as weird as me, clearly, and that we have to get him on the podcast. So,
the Rick and Morty got me here today. That's great. I think like about Rick and Morty, I've learned about it from one of my couples, to be honest, because I wasn't. I always saw it, somewhere in the internet, Netflix or wherever it was, but I like the graphics and the style of drawing didn't appeal to me at first to make that decision like, hey, I'm gonna try it. But then I was shooting like an elopement in Iceland, and one of my couple was like, we are crazy about Rick and Morty. And since I really enjoy spending time with my couples, and I kind of get on the same vibes with them most of the time before the wedding. Like, so all the, branding stuff that we probably are going to touch today are regarding, me getting the same vibe clients as I am. So so when my clients told me like, we like Rick and Morty, we watch it like 10 times every episode. Like on the way back from that wedding, I was going to another wedding actually. So that was like Iceland to Rome, I think. And it was like a 4-day trip, and I watched first 2 seasons during that trip.
Yes.
Like literally couldn't go to sleep because I was watching until like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. And I was like, shit, tomorrow I have to shoot wedding, but one more.
Oh, awesome.
So
brilliant.
Yeah.
So I know you're good friends with our like mutual friend Mark Pecura, and when we said we're getting you on, we thought, right, Mark, what's some good stories about magic? And he's like, well, prompt him by just saying, tell us about the story with Jim Pollard in New Zealand at the top of a mountain. So what's that story all about?
I have a cooler one for like that might be even more relevant for the podcast with New Zealand and being at the top of the mountain as well. So I actually went to Australia for a wedding. That was like a wedding of one of my friends that moved to Australia, so he got me there. It's not that I'm that famous to be brought to Australia for a wedding. So I went there for a wedding, my friend, and I had a week. And basically being a week on the another side of the planet, you kind of think like, how can I, use more of that time here in terms of like, what can I do more? And I was like, New Zealand, I want to go to New Zealand. And Jim Pollard actually was following me and like being like, hey, you in Australia, just, hop on the plane and come over. And I actually did. I just pulled the trigger and I'm like, okay, let's do it. I came to, so I went to Queenstown, landed, Jim Pollard picked me up, and straight from there we went to the chopper, like Jim Pollard style, to the top of the mountain. And the funny thing was that like I take my cameras because like Jim was like, yeah, you shoot whatever you want. Like this is the one occasion in your lifetime, being on the top of the mountain with the couple, like at least for now, So he's like, no worries, you can shoot whatever you want. So I take my cameras and there's no batteries at all. I did not bring any of my batteries. For some reason that I left them in another bag or something. And at that time I was shooting Canon and Jim was shooting Canon. He had like his 2 cameras. And I was like, hey, do you have any spare batteries? And he was like, yeah, I always have some spare batteries. And he did not have any. So he took one out. So he took one out from one of his cameras and was like, okay, man, take one mine. So he was shooting with one camera. So not ideal, but just gave me the second one. So probably that's the story that Mark heard. But the funny thing was like we went back to his house and he's giving me this like super hipster coffee, like this, the super hipster mug and everything, and as I said in the intro, I'm not a big coffee person. I was just like sipping it like okay, can you give me more water so I can just drink it with something? I couldn't ask him to hey, can you give me some more milk and sugar so I can put into it, because he was like, yeah, this coffee beans were grown in a place of like all the story, like being like how good the coffee is and something.
Yep.
That would be very disrespectful to ask for milk and sugar, right?
Yeah. I mean, we don't judge when people want milk or sugar in their coffee, but personally, I wouldn't do it. I think it needs to just be straight up black coffee. But I don't judge.
Yeah.
If it's hipster coffee that Magic's talking about, I don't know if it would work with milk.
Yeah, that's the thing.
But no judgment. You do you. If you want to put milk in your coffee, Magic, you go for it. 10 sugars,
awesome.
a pint of milk. So what happened after you drank the coffee? Were you bouncing off the walls?
No. Nothing like there is nothing weird happening when I drink it. Yeah, it's just like I don't enjoy the process. Is not necessarily. It's like eating something that you don't like because you're sitting in dad of your girlfriend or whatever.
Yeah. So going back up to the top of the mountain, when that happened, is that when you finally cursed out Canon and you prayed to the Sony gods and they were like, this man's ready. Oh, he is now a Sony ambassador.
I got blessed on that top of the mountain, exactly.
Some sort of Sony biblical story.
It wasn't until, I think, it wasn't until a year later, because that was a long time ago, 2016. Yeah. So prior, even the first A9s, and the first A9 camera was the one that got me interested in Sony cameras in general. Like I have a good friend, Italian wedding photographer, Roberto Panciatici, and he bought A9 just when it was announced. And I don't remember, for some workshop or for some other reason, he came to Poland. So he came to my house, he brought the A9, and I was like, holy moly, this camera is insane. But other than like that, hey, this camera is insane, I was like, no, I can't afford changing systems or anything like that. And like a few months later, I was shooting a wedding in Ireland. I even remember that. I was in some bus in between, because fun fact, I don't have driving license, so I always drive, buses, trains, and second shooters with cars. That's my way of traveling. So I remember being on a bus in the middle of Ireland, I think in between Limerick and somewhere, don't even remember exactly, but I remember that bus, and I got the email from Sony. Sony, like, hey, I work for Sony. It was like the girl that I work with now. He was like, hey, my name is blah, blah, blah. I work for Sony for a few months, and we have some cool cameras that actually I think are good for wedding photographers, and I've been following your work for like years or something. Maybe you want to try something out. And that was the beginning. And I was like, oh, sure. At that time I had A7S, the first one, for like some video making stuff. So I knew the technology, and I know that A9 is massive. And that was before the third generation A7s were announced. So that before the big boom of Sony. Yeah. So it was kind of funny because they borrowed me the cameras for weddings. I started shooting with them. I got interested, and within a few months' time, they actually offered me, hey, we actually look for someone to work with us, like in the wedding, industry, like a wedding ambassador, and we think you'd be the best one if you like the cameras. And I love the cameras. But in my head, there was still like Sony, such a niche brand. And then boom, A7S3, like A7 III, A7 R3, and then like all the boom happened. And it was just after I became ambassador. So I kind of think that it's all me,
It's clearly, yeah. That is awesome, man. That's awesome. I'm just going to do a Q&A reminder to our Clubhouse listeners. Obviously, this podcast is being recorded live with Clubhouse, so thank you very much for joining us here. But there'll be a Q&A section at the end, so if you've got any questions to ask Magic, you can ask them there. Magic, for the people who don't know who you are yet, who are you and what do you do?
Oh, okay. That's the second intro. Let it be. So my actual name is Maciej Suwalowski, as like we said in the intro, and Maciej became Magic because it's just impossible to remember that name and repeat that name for English-speaking people, and like. At some point of my career, I started serving more international clients than Polish local ones, and I even remember. Oh, that's funny because the one couple that referred me Rick and Morty, that's the one who I remember because I have a screenshot for some of my presentations that she posted a photo that I took of their elopement in Iceland, like super epic photo, amazing, like hundreds of likes under her, that was Facebook, under her Facebook. And in the description, she goes like, oh, photo captured by our amazing photographer. And there was something like Maciej Suwalowski, some weird way of saying my name, like writing my name, like impossible to remember what it was. It looked so weird, and at that time that was also my URL. That was my brand, MaciejSuwalowski.com. That was my website. But Maciej, it doesn't sound anything like Macieij because that's how you spell it. Mm-hmm. So long story short, became Magic, rebranded to Magic Wedding Photographer. So I shoot weddings. I started shooting weddings in, I think, 2013, but went full-time in 2016, shooting mostly international couples in Europe, so couples traveling to Europe or couples from Europe in Europe. Most popular countries that I shoot in would be Ireland, Italy, Iceland, so all the I countries. And some of my work, 30% probably happens in Poland, actually. But since I moved to my website being all English, everything magic, like the local market, it's just a word of mouth, let's say. That's how it stays. I stay alive as remember Magic?
Yeah.
He shot my wedding. He's gonna shoot your wedding. It works. It's funny because in Poland we have this thing that couples, when they book you for a wedding, they very often want portrait session on a separate day. Okay.
Yeah.
So the separate, the after post-wedding shoot, after wedding session, something like that. It's very common. And since I started shooting a lot of international, traveling stuff, so weddings in Iceland, and stuff like that, mostly adventurous types of small weddings. My website was full of these images. So my Polish couples that booked me for weddings in Poland started to ask me if they can go with me for a after wedding shoot somewhere. Literally, we'll go anywhere you are. and so we can stay there like one day longer and shoot us as well. So that was like also like a piece of a like business for me. I even had one couple that was a really crazy couple that wanted an engagement session in Iceland, wedding in Warsaw, and then after wedding session in Thailand, because they were going there on their honeymoon, and they're like, hey, hop on a plane with us, we'll pay for everything, just come over to Thailand, just shoot some portrait of us in Thailand. And that was like the very restricted in terms of date, because they were flying out literally day after their wedding, and I had the next wedding a week later. I went to Thailand for 1 day and a half.
Whoa.
I think it was longer to travel there and come back than I actually spent in that place. But that was a year of a hustle, I think, like 2016-ish.
Wow.
So when I just moved full time, and I was like, I'm gonna do like freaking everything I can to do as many things I can do, to build up that brand. And it worked. Still getting inquiries because of that hustle that I did back then. Now I'm more chilled in terms of hustling on the photography side, of my business.
Yeah. So how did?
Well, that was weird. Weird intro. Like from the intro, I went to some random stuff. But yeah, basically that was when I started like full-time wedding photography until now. I also do, because of being Sony ambassador, I do a lot of workshops with Sony, a lot of talks internationally as well, but mostly like those are in Poland. And recently, so in January, I started my YouTube channel because I thought I started getting gear before it's released from Sony. It was like I get to that point that they're like, hey, we have something new, sign NDA and we'll tell you what's that. And that was the moment I think like, oh shit, I like have access to like the major gear. So maybe I can, ride on that wave of the Sony hype and build my channel, on that. And so far it's been working. So 2 months, started 2 months ago.
So YouTube's quite a big focus for you now, and how is it going? Is it been good fun?
So it is, it's fun. Like I'm like I was struggling with the decision: should I do it? Should I like not do it? Like on one hand, like all I actually went to my office. I had that big piece of paper and I started just writing the ideas. Okay, what can I do? Because like weddings are slowing down right now, at least like last year. That was last year. So like, what stuff can I do? And one of the ideas was YouTube. And like everything I wrote under YouTube like made sense, in terms of, okay, I have access to stuff. I have network, like international network, like know a lot of people around the world. So more people actually would listen to me speaking in English than in Polish. Plus, it's a wide audience when you speak English. And also I thought, okay, wedding photographers shooting Sony. There's actually not that many on YouTube. Like whenever I search for a review on a new lens or something like that, like they're never appealing to me because they never show what I want to see in terms of lens or camera performance. So I figured like if I have this problem, probably there's like tons of other people who also have the same thing, that they watch the YouTube review and it's like the review by YouTuber and not necessarily photographer and not even necessarily wedding photographer, to be even more specific. So that was like all the points that I was like, okay. And I started along with the premiere of new Sony 35 1.4 lens. I posted with 0 subscribers in mid-January, and I was like, hey, let's see where it goes. And at first, like my review didn't even show up in the search, which I actually figured that like, man, I should have like probably like formally started the channel like a month ago and maybe just built something up so it's not like a random empty channel posting a video, because like who else is gonna watch if even they're typing like Sony 35G Master. There was like 10 reviews from YouTubers and stuff like that, and then not mine, some other stuff, so not even connected with what I typed in the search bar. So I was like, no, definitely YouTube, is not shadow banning me, but not including me in that search because I'm just too new. But my goal was, okay, don't give up. 50 videos, 1 video per week. That's my dedication, and then I can give up if it doesn't work. So that's the goal. I'm on a video number 9 so far. Almost 600 subscribers.
Nice.
So went from 0 to 600 within like a month and a half. So yeah, I think
I was going to say that's really good.
A lot of engagement. Actually, that's something that I wasn't expecting. Being, let's say, having 10,000 followers on Instagram, you kind of you have likes, you have comments. People do it, then you're bid up by algorithm and it all goes down and stuff like that. But you kind of feel that you have some sort of community around, and also Facebook. But then you post a video about, I don't know, Sony A1 on YouTube, and there's like 20 comments being like, holy shit, this video is amazing. And like, oh man, this is great comparison. Can you tell me this and this and that? It's like, the number of people interested in this like actually blew my mind, and the engagement in terms of the interest under the videos. So far so good. Let's see like when I finish that 50 video how it goes.
Yeah, you will have conquered YouTube by then, don't worry.
Yeah, it's gonna be.
I suppose
605. Now I have like 500. It's gonna. You never know. It's also algorithms.
I'm already one of them.
Thanks so much. Yeah. Thanks so much, dude.
But
I appreciate.
So whenever I go onto YouTube, but not every time, because I do like to get my news from YouTube, which is probably not the best place to get my news, but I do. But whenever I go, it's always for education. It's education about technology, what people, like how they thought about it. So I can understand people kind of engaging more on that level, because if I'm going to Instagram, I'm not there to think about, should I upgrade my kit or whatever.
So on Instagram, you're just chilling, you're just scrolling, maybe looking for inspiration, versus on YouTube, you're looking for an answer.
Yeah, I think so. I'm very rarely looking for an answer on Instagram. But that could be just me.
Probably
I don't
never.
know.
But like, how can you even? There is no tool to do that. So like, would you put like the hashtag in the search box like A1 versus A9? No. You'll do that via Google or YouTube, and Google will also show YouTube.
Yeah.
So
So there's that. YouTube is the second most, the second largest search engine, other than Google.
And it's owned by Google.
Which I was really annoyed because I did a pub quiz during lockdown with my family, and someone else gave another answer, and I'm like, hang on a minute, I know for a fact YouTube is the second biggest. Don't you lie to me. And I didn't get the point. I was most annoyed because I'm competitive with my family.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
So Magic, you've got your 50 videos kind of as your goal. Is that what's going to keep you motivated to do YouTube, or will it be that kind of like all the questions that you get from other people, like helping others? What's your motivation?
So that's the 50 videos is the goal. The motivation is just to do something that works for people, like I was doing actually so many things, like we do like the conference in Poland and so on, but actually there's, I get so many questions about that gear, like being a Sony ambassador. And since I was doing most of my Sony workshops and the articles for Sony in Polish, I was like, there's no way I can, when someone in English asked me like, hey, you tried this A1, how is that? And I'm like, okay, again, canned response. A1, then like, how is it versus this camera? Canned response, A1 versus A7R for, you know, so it's like, of course, obviously A1 is a new one. It's just an example of like what happened in the last 3 years about like all the possible Sony cameras and lenses and which lens should I get and which this and which that and what are you using. So that was like a way for me, like, yeah, just people like they search for these answers. They ask me because, you know, they know I use it. They know me as a person and they like my photos. So I think, why don't I bring this to like the bigger waters? Obviously thinking that this at some point might be some sort of like the business, you know, path for me, because as for now, like it's gonna be tons of time and zero. Wait, sorry, something was calling me. Sorry, because at that time is just working a lot with like zero profit in terms of, you know, money or anything for that. Like you cannot like monetize YouTube from day one. It's a lot of work with the possible future profit, not necessarily even from YouTube, but, you know, from like the whole community, like maybe other stuff. Like I want to move to some physical products in the future. So I'm thinking like, hey, this might help, you know, as like the one of the lanes of the stuff that I'm doing. I don't have bloody idea how successful can it be, to be honest. I like in Poland, I don't know anyone who would be, you know, successful in terms of in my at least network that would live off from YouTube or something like that. So I don't see this coming, at least not in the next, you know, year or something, but maybe in the future, who knows? I kind of saw some of my colleagues from States blowing up last year because of pandemic and, you know, getting from, you know, 10K subscribers to 100K and like immediately making that their full-time job. Will this gonna happen for me? I have no bloody idea, but if I don't try, you never know.
I think that's a good approach to have. If you don't try, you'll never know. It's a great sort of motivation just to keep going. It's good that you've set that goal of 50.
Yeah, it has to be a goal, because like if I would stop after the first one, I could have, because I was like, oh, it doesn't even show in the search bar. What the heck, man? What, 100 views in 1 week? What? Doesn't work. I'm gonna stop it. Then I would stop at, you know, 50 subscribers and 100 views. While just a few weeks later of just consistently putting out stuff, I can see that, okay, it's working. As far as I am dedicated and, you know, post every week. I missed 1 week because I was doing like the online conference last week. So I kind of missed by a few days that 1 week goal that I had for myself. And I immediately saw the numbers going down, which was crazy because I didn't expect that, like that you're gonna see this like right away. I'm so, you know, my channel is a baby channel. Probably maybe someone who's listening to us have like 10 times bigger channels. But from, you know, even in that baby micro scale, I could already tell that consistency is the key, because, you know, I missed 1 week video, like I didn't post week after week, and boom, all the numbers, the views from the past videos, the number of subscribers growing, it all slowed down, you know. And then I posted again yesterday and boom, again up. So it's just, you have to post and post, like probably like with every social, like we learned that from either Instagram or Facebook or all the time. If you're consistently putting out the work, it just, you know, I always call it like the Instagramming for photographers. I always call it like fishing. You know, like you are just starting fishing and you put something on the, you know, I don't know words for fishing. How does the stick that, what was the name of the stick? Fishing stick? You put the bait on a hook and then you dip it in water and then the fishes might come or might not come, right? So this is what we do when we post photos on Instagram. We put the bait. And maybe someone will come, maybe will not. But if you don't do it, they definitely won't come from, at least not from that pond, right?
Yeah.
So just before we get into more of the sort of branding stuff, the meat of the episode, just want to remind people that there's Q&A section coming up at the end, which will be available to Patreon listeners. But if you're listening live, you can raise your hand later on and ask a question.
Yep. And if you're listening on Clubhouse, you can ping somebody in if you know they're having trouble with their branding, or if maybe they have any other questions, maybe Magic can help them out. So ping people in. I know it's a kind of a strange time for a Clubhouse, but we appreciate you.
Yep. A quick ad break before we get into that.
Yeah.
With Jack was designed from the ground up and is tailored specifically for creatives. Whether you provide a service like design, development or photography, or offer advice to clients, With Jack is for you. It's focused on creatives. Insurance shouldn't be complicated, so With Jack has made every step easy. You'll deal with one form and talk to one Jack as you sign up, get covered, and move on with your day. With Jack is all about bespoke insurance for creatives. Simple. That doesn't mean more forms or faff, it means less. It's not about endless features and stale service. It's about one solid policy and the personal touch. Bye-bye unnecessary fuss. Hello, creative friendly insurance. Be a confident creative.
Sorry if we lost you during that ad break. Greg was playing around with Clubhouse and accidentally left the room.
Oh no.
Yeah, so
I was like,
I think the ad might have cut out halfway through.
Oh, amazing. Sorry.
Yeah. We lost hearing of the.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay, Magic, I want to read something to our listeners that's from your About page because I love it.
Right.
Magic was born out of light in the mid-80s. He has found love and has married his alien wife and produced 4 babies. If you're in love and you want your love to be captured by the Wizzard of Light, send me a telepathic message here. I mean, first of all, I butchered that a little bit, but that is amazing. I mean, to me, it says it's you all over.
Yeah, that was the goal. That was the goal. So happy it works, at least on you. You can see. So it started. I don't even remember when. At some point, that I think I've heard on one of the workshops that if a bride goes shopping for a photographer, and she'll see the website. And on the first second, she either immediately knows, oh, this is the guy, or, oh, this is not the guy. That's like super, easy for a photographer. Then all the inquirers they get is like people who really wants them. And there's no random people being like, hey, can you shoot my wedding? What's your price? So that was the philosophy behind this, trying to filter in the right people, let's say.
Yeah.
The right people being like, I don't care like where are they, who they are, how much money they have, or like how luxury or non-luxury or cheap their wedding is gonna be. I only care if they're vibing with me. That's the ultimate goal. So as you can see on the website, there's like tons of different weddings as well. So I try to be as inclusive as I can in terms of like what I show. Although, there's a lot of adventurous stuff. There's a lot of, some funky stuff because that's the people that are drawn by the whole, magical branding. So one of the first words that you will see, actually the first words that you will see when you go to the website is Enter the Dragon. And I call that philosophy Enter the Dragon. I think it was like started as a joke when I was creating a website. It was a template and there was a button on it. It was like enter the website or something like, or enter portfolio. And it's like, boring, enter portfolio. So I was like, enter. And I was thinking like, hey, what can they enter? And then I just like for no reason randomly popped in my head, Enter the Dragon, like the movie with Bruce Lee. From the 80s, classic movie. Yeah. So I was like, Enter the Dragon, and I left it as is. And it's been like 6 years or 4 or 5 years that my websites had Enter the Dragon as the first where's, and I even remember at some point, like a few years ago, I was teaching some Polish people here on the workshops, and I did that talk about the Enter the Dragon philosophy. That's how I call it. And while I was speaking I finished the presentation being like, just Enter the Dragon. You want the people to right away decide, like, or not decide, at least feel that, hey, this guy is for us or this guy is not for us. But at the end of that presentation, I was like, hey, am I actually right with this? Does it work like this? You start second guessing, like, hey, does it even, like, you kind of made it with that plan, you kind of went with it, you get the client, so you think it's working, but maybe it's not working, maybe it's not that, So I started second guessing. And I think the very next day, I'm on Skype with one of my couples that we're talking about booking me for their wedding, and that was funny because they said that and we saw that dragon at the first words, and it's like, oh, this guy. Immediately, and it was even funnier because for them it was because they were watching Games of Thrones, or and they saw dragons, and it's like, oh, amazing. Oh, yeah. We're into dragons, he's into dragons, that's cool. But the even more funny thing is that they booked me over the photographer that, like, initially they agreed didn't sign a contract yet. That was 2 times cheaper. So that even was that they were like, yeah, we don't care how much this guy is. Like, we want this guy because he's freaking dragon. So that was kind of, that sealed the deal, being like, okay. I asked and universe answered, like, right away. So it's Enter the Dragon. So whole goal is to have some sort of a connection with the clients, like, in the first email, like, that's like, who likes getting these emails like, hey, what's your price? Or like, hey, what's your price for 2025? Or like, hey, you free this day? Like, you don't like this short, not personal messages, and you're trying to squeeze as much as you can from that contact form, adding like, hey, tell me something about you, or stuff like that. But for me, what would work was like, hey, is your wedding going to be Star Wars or not? It's like, it's just like simple weird stuff. And the responses I get, the emails I get is like, oh, Lord Vader wasn't able to, celebrate our wedding, but we'll have, Joe. Or like stuff like, hey, we were boarding Millennium Falcon. Like, everyone, even if they don't like Star Wars, or there's always something about some stuff on the website or in the contact form or anywhere else in the website that they kind of relate to on, like, that cosmic level, let's say. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. Oh man, that's awesome.
So when you were... so that's I call it Enter the Dragon philosophy, basically. The branding that is just like stands out. Like, for sure it niches out my my clientele, because it's like, I can imagine, like, I remember I told you about that Italian friend of mine, wedding photographer. He shot a lot of weddings at this time, and Tuscany, like that high-end profile, expensive weddings. And I was like, hey, can you refer me to any of your couples? You're shooting like 60 weddings a year. Maybe you can send me something. And he was like, sure. And he was sending me couples along, to me, and they never booked because they were not Enter the Dragon material. They were just
that's what it is,
filtered out with the Enter the Dragon filter.
That's so cool. I think your branding probably, it just spoke to me and my character, and that's probably why I've been so excited to have you on. You're right. It kind of just, it does work to filter out those kind of, like, the people who aren't for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I always, when I teach about this, I'm always like, be careful, because that's definitely something that will not be to everyone. Maybe the way you want to run your business is to expand, maybe conquer the local market, or like you always have to think about what do you want to have at the end, like what's your goal with your business, what's your strategy with my business. I'm fine with shooting 15 to 20 weddings around the world with just like some random people that just are vibing with me, and because it just brings me so much joy and fun, and it always works. And also then they refer me to their friends because their friends are like them, and that word of mouth also always works. But it's it's a tricky business to run, and especially now when I cannot travel, my couples cannot travel, so and I couldn't like right away switch to okay, I'm going to be shooting the local weddings, like small local weddings now, because I would have to like change everything on my website, like I probably could have done it, or maybe even I should have, in terms of like if I wanted to profit from weddings last year, but I was like, no, I'm just gonna wait for my couples, and I see already what's happening when 2022, because 2021 is also going to be tricky for most of my clients are usually Americans coming to Europe. So there's not going to be that many this year as well, but I see that they're piling up next year, like all the big weddings. Some of them I had moved to 2022, some of them are already, filling the calendar. So actually I got the one of the bookings today. I looked at my spreadsheet for 2022, and it's like, hey, it's looking better than 2021 already with just few weddings. But but that's, so I always say like it's a decision, whether you want to go that route or you maybe want to have some other idea for your business. For me, I love it. My brand is very personal. It's about magic. It's about having fun with people and vibing with them. And just like you said, you vibe with this. Most of my clients are Greg's. Greg's and Simon's, I hope.
Yes.
So when you were coming up with this sort of Enter the Dragon philosophy, and you were designing the whole brand, the website, logo, website copy and everything, was this all you that was doing it? Or did you hire in someone to help out with any aspect?
So funny enough, with the whole idea was mine, like in terms of like how I want it. Actually, I've been working to redesign the website, and at first the idea was to simplify things, but when I was doing some mock-ups, I went even crazier with that. So I hope that will see the sunlight at some point. But yeah, the whole idea was mine, with the copy and everything was mine. At first, I started looking for someone to draw me the drawings. I cannot draw like this.
Right.
But I had a clear vision of what kind of style I want. So I grabbed some inspirations and found some guy on Behance, sent it over to him. He was like, sure, I can do it. This is the contract. I paid the deposit, and he made sketches, and they were so bad. Like clearly, like he did not understand the message, it's like anything. It's like, it looked like he completely, and it didn't even look like his portfolio. So I was like, what the freak is this? Like, I just lost money. And then I booked a wedding in Warsaw, so where I live, with like the friends of my friends, and the guy is like graffiti artist, and also actually the illustrator. And I was like, looked at his work, and I was like, hey, do you want to make some drawings for my website? And I'm gonna give you like half price, so I'm gonna pay you like half of my wedding fee for the drawings. And he was like, sure. And I sent him the same inspirations, like exactly the same stuff that I've sent to the other guy. And the first thing that he came back to me with was my logo, as you can see today, like literally at the first freaking try. And I was like, dude, like you killed it. Like, how is that even possible? It's like you are in my head and drawing what I want. And then I was like, hey, can you draw like a dragon, pineapple, R2D2, like a funky version of R2D2, and it's like, and universe, planets, and like I actually had even my sketches that I drew on a paper and sent it over, and he was like, sure, and everything was like, he was sending, I was like, approve. He was sending, I was like, approve. He was saying, approve. So yeah, the perfect guy for me. Worked like a charm.
Yeah.
So that's the story of my branding.
I mean, I know we've kind of touched on this a little bit, but why is it important to show the you in your business?
I think that at this point of the, let's say, development, or like the development of the wedding photography industry, with so many workshops and conferences, it's very hard to stand out with work.
Yeah.
And it's not that it doesn't matter, because it matters a lot. Like, what are you providing? What kind of work are you creating? But not everyone is an artist. And then you have these workshops, then, Mark and Cole are taking 20 people to Iceland, and everyone comes back with the same photos, kind of, like, of course, with some sort of changes, but the same couple, the same place, slightly different editing, slightly different angles. And while it's awesome because every one of them can profit from that, at the end, the client might go to 5, 6, 7 websites and be like, I don't even know which one is better, because like we know the nuances, but most of the people won't see the difference between, me or Mark, for example. If you show, like, I show the photo under waterfall, he showed the photo under waterfall. Oh, awesome, waterfall couple, amazing, looks great. With of course some of the exceptions, there are like some photographers that are so amazing in terms of the art that they're producing, but then that's also a very niche in terms of the clients that can see the difference or can be like, this is the one I want. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, I think it comes down to everything around these photos as well. So not only photos, of course, they have to be good. They have to, and enjoy the photos, because that's going to be the product that they're looking at for years. But then who is behind the camera started being more and more important. How can you, the service that you're actually providing, but also like what kind of human you are behind the camera, especially we're spending, like with our couples, we're spending like tons of time on the wedding day. I'd say even more time than everyone else, being in front of the bride while everyone else is behind the bride. You know what I mean? So she's actually looking at you behind the camera for like 10 hours straight, probably. So does she want to look at this guy with the mustache and be like, oh, yeah, and maybe not even nice dressed or stuff like that, or they want to look at this dude that they would invite for a wedding as their guest because he's so cool. So I think that comes down to that, decision here, that this personal thing helps a lot with decision, but also that's not for everyone as well. So there are going to be couples that they don't care about that. Like, even look at the luxury market, that the couple don't even choose the photographer. They go to wedding planner and be like, I don't want to do anything about, like, I want you to take care about everything. So on that side, you have to be professional. You have to be, it has to be more of a company and brand behind the photos, not necessarily like, funky dude. So it's always, you have to weigh that and find the balance. Yeah. What do you want?
No, yeah, absolutely. I think so. When Greg and I went through rebranding, that was very much a thing. We wanted to aim for the higher end market. We were thinking luxury. Mm-hmm. We were thinking kind of like films like whiskey ads and things like that to kind of portray that. But what we were also trying to do is kind of remove ourselves from the brand, so that the brand could stand on its own. However, like that was 4 years ago.
But 3 or 4 years ago.
3 or 4 years ago. The world since then has changed so much. Like, I think with COVID and everyone being stuck inside and now kind of absolutely gagging for some social interaction, and things like Clubhouse, for example. I mean, you go on this app to talk to people and it is your name, except for Greg, who used Cinemate, which I find really funny.
I've only done that because of the podcast.
But like, people are starting to, connect person to person now, and not just brand to brand. So I have a funny feeling that we are going to have to start interjecting ourselves more into the brand.
That's funny that you say that, because I was thinking maybe I should have to make like a Magic Studio brand or something like that, so I can hide some people also under it, have some in-house editors and stuff, and and grow that in terms of the so that's funny. Like, the grass is always greener on the other hand. But it totally depends on the I think on the market you're serving as well. Like you said, that you are trying to go to the more luxury market, and then the brand is sometimes what couples want, where they want luxury brand. There's like a team behind the brand. They don't care if that's like one dude or the other dude. They care that this is the brand. There's a team of people. Yeah. Maybe there's some one leader, but team of people. That sounds like something I want to pay for.
Yeah, definitely. I just wonder. I think I've spoken about this on the podcast previously, about kind of getting nervous to show yourself in public. I know that sounds maybe a little bit crazy. Do you ever get nervous about putting yourself out there?
No.
No?
No.
Good for you.
Short answer. No.
No, that's awesome. It's obviously you've got confidence. I just
I think there's times in the office where we'll be weird.
Yeah.
And it's like, is this okay to show? But because there's two of us, it's harder to be like, yeah, just do it. Because there's a devil on the other shoulder, which is the other person, being like, no, that's a bit too much, which is usually me.
I'm usually
the more reserved one, and I'm like, oh, you're maybe being a bit too weird, Simon. I like it, but is it too weird to put out there? I don't know. And because there's two of us, it's harder to just be like, fuck it, let's just do it.
Yeah,
that's funny. For me, I think it kinds of that I get more outgoing as like if more people that are around, the more I'm magic, Yeah. I'm just getting pumped by the number of people and being like more hyped out. So I know people that if there's like that, they're more, hiding themselves if the crowd is growing and they like small, intimate. And I find myself that at home I'm being chilled, like hibernating and getting excited when someone comes and like, and getting all over the place. And my wife always laughs about that because especially with 4 kids, there's not that much time in between us that we're alone and we can just, hang out now these days. And there's sometimes they're like, when we hang out, we decide that we hang out with some friends, and then some friends are coming over, and then there's some topic about, anything, like you would say, like the top of the New Zealand thing with Jim Pollard, and I would be like, I have this cool story, and I tell this story, and my wife would be like, I didn't hear this story, like you did not tell me that. I'm like,
that reminds me. You mentioned something about a groom and a missing tooth.
I actually have 2 of these. I had a groom with missing teeth, like a day before a wedding. They went to Northern Ireland for a bachelor party because I was like a very international wedding in Ireland. Mm-hmm. A lot of people came in from like all around the world. So all the boys decided on Wednesday that on Thursday they're going to go Northern Ireland for, drinks and stuff. And they come back on Friday and the groom doesn't have one of his teeth, like the lower one, the one in the middle actually, because he was opening a bottle of tequila with his, without any tools. But yeah, they managed to somehow hide it. Like he went and got some fake tooth or something like that for the day.
Yeah.
But then I had one more, that was a long time ago. That was like on the very, very beginning of my career when I was still, doing some full-time job, like other than weddings. I was at the wedding that my bride, she fell at her face and she lost her top tooth, the root one, the number, like the one we call it one, the number one, the one in the front on the top, the huge one, and it didn't break. It just popped out.
Just popped out.
Yeah, and check this out. They went to the hospital at like 11 p.m. She was in a wedding dress. He was in the suit. They put it back.
What?
And she came, like they glued it with something, and she came back for a wedding at like 2 a.m. Like she couldn't eat. She couldn't,
was there blood
drink.
down the wedding dress or anything?
No blood at all. No blood at all.
Goodness.
Like they managed to but she got back, like came back with a few stitches on her upper, lip, because like when she hit in the face, she. So that was hardcore. And to this day, both me, the bride and the groom, we are so mad that I didn't go with them. For to the hospital to take photos at the hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would have been so epic.
Yeah, that'd be.
But at that time, it was very dramatic.
Yeah.
Sorry, just had to drink. Yeah, at that time it was very dramatic because everyone was crying. They didn't know what was gonna happen. They had that tooth on. She was holding the freaking tooth in her hands. And it's like crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, didn't even take any good photos of this. Yeah, go for it.
We've talked about the sort of website side of your personal branding, but what other sort of methods are you using to portray that part of your business, like the you, like sort of social media or emails? How are you communicating with couples or potential couples out with just your website?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, the website is the key, obviously, but then it has to be consistent over all the media that you're doing. So website, Instagram, Facebook, like it all has to like give the same vibe outside the world, to the world.
Yep.
So I found it that with the Instagram stories, there are like the best possible tool for you to just show yourself. So what I was doing, at least when I was hustling a lot with my photography side of things, I was showing a lot of behind the scenes, all like a lot of joking behind the camera, being like, oh my god, this is cool, like we're here, we're there, like just showing my world basically. And like how does that work is that people were actually responding in the emails when they were sending inquiry, like, we love your Instagram stories, like we feel like we know you, and then so many times I have this thing that when I went to shoot a wedding, I show up when the bride is getting ready. I remember that one time because that was like the one of the biggest bridesmaids, the how do you call it? When there's like 12 bridesmaids, the wedding party, right?
Oh, the wedding party, yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, the wedding party was huge at that wedding. So I show up in that Irish castle that was again in Ireland. Get in the room. And there's this American bride with her 12 bridesmaids, all of them wearing, the same robes, of course. And she's like, oh my God, Magic. And, I saw her once, like a year before on Skype. That was it. I didn't even remember how exactly she looks, so I wasn't sure which one is the bride. And especially she had a sister that was like identical. But yeah, she was like, "Oh my God, Magic!" And she was like, "Stop, everyone! This is Magic. This is my photographer. He came from Poland. He's amazing." And the girls were like, "Yeah, we know. We follow him already." That was the moment I was like, holy shit, like they all know me and they feel super comfortable, like because they feel like they know me, and I feel bad because I don't follow them and I don't know them, like none of them actually, and they all know me. So that's kind of one-sided only. That's the only thing I dislike about that I wish I know which people, so I can get some vibes with them. Plus, sometimes even if I do follow the bride of Instagram prior to her wedding, they are not necessarily doing Instagram stories as well, or showing themselves, maybe showing their cat or something. But there's so many times I go, and even mother of the bride would be, "Oh, Magic, we saw you bought a new hat in Iceland. How was it?" It's like, "Oh yeah, I bought a new hat. That's true. Yeah, I showed it in my stories." And they kind of know everything that But that I kind of stopped it. Not that I stopped it. I still do Instagram stories, but at that time I was like doing them daily. Doing like the series, like a music for today, like this and that. And this works very well, and it was great. But at that time, like it worked for my business at that time, but because I was trying to grow my business, and that was the goal. At that time, I do see that I should be doing some of this stuff, and I know I could have I'm in the place, let's say, that I know what would work, but I don't have time and power, and I'm not so eager to do everything again. The same stuff. So I that was the time between 2016 and 2018, 19 that I was doing literally everything. That I was this will work, I will do it. This will work, I will do it. While right now,
I remember back about that time, you were really prolific on Snapchat. And then obviously Instagram stories come along, and I think you filtered that into stories.
Exactly.
But as you say, it's kind of not as prolific nowadays, I don't think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. That was the moment. I even had brides following on Snapchat as well. So it started with Snapchat. It started with one of the Nordicus workshops that they were like, Snapchat's next big thing. And that was the time I was trying to grow my business, let's say start to have a good start with my business. I was like, I'm going to do everything. And I was doing that for 2-3 years. But now, with 4 kids at home, with multiple, ideas, what can I do with running all this different stuff, doing conference, doing workshops, doing the weddings are a big part of that in terms of they are majority of my income. But now I kind of prefer relying maybe on that word of mouth side of stuff. Yeah, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna I'm just tired, man.
Yeah, I know. We get you, man. We get you. Well, you mentioned the kind of studio idea, which I thought was kind of cool. But we spoke on the last episode of the podcast. We were speaking to a photographer called Emma Lawson, and she kind of bolsters her business with associate shooters. So I'm wondering, have you? Do you have an associate team of shooters?
No. So I did not go that route. And now I wouldn't say it's too late for me. It would need to get on my list of priorities. It's all like when I was talking about that piece of paper in my office that I put the ideas of this stuff, that was one of the ideas too. Okay, but that would require for me to switch to a local business. To change everything to Polish, because that studio idea with associate shooters works really well locally, which I could pull off. But then again, it's a decision hey, should I do this or should I concentrate on the other stuff? So right now it's in the queue. I know it again. That's funny. After all these years of doing a lot of stuff, of knowing a lot of people, of talking with a lot of people, all this stuff, what will work for what. I know that, okay, if I want to do this, let's say with this YouTube, if I want to do YouTube, I just have to do it. I just know that I have to do a video freaking a week, and that's work. That's a lot of work. But, and to be honest, I was talking before with Cole Roberts from Nordica, and it's before I was starting this YouTube, and I was like, man, I'm pretty sure it's gonna work, because I know that this is how it works. You just have to put these videos every week, but should I do it? Should I do it? It's gonna be tiring. And so so there's decisions that being hey, this is the stuff that can be done, but all of them requires time, and I'm just have very limited time in terms of there's only 24 hours, and I have to sleep at least 6, 7, and then I have to spend some time with my 4 kids. So, so the bigger question that I was asking myself, could I have a team of people working with me? But every time I try to team up with people, it doesn't work. I'm just too much, I wouldn't say a perfectionist, but that's why the Magic is Magic, the brand, because like everything I do is just me. And then when I have someone else, I would like, do this, do that. And like, oh, maybe I should do it this way. And like, no, do this. Because I tell you. So I don't think I'm a good team player.
No, I'm with you. So Greg and I have roles in the business, obviously, and one of mine is the editing of kind of all the content, and I'm quite prideful about it. Probably to an unhealthy degree. Like I do end, like there's this kind of famous kind of saying, you work on your business, not in your business. And I find that I just work in my business a lot.
I get it.
And Greg works on the business a lot. But like it kind of plays to our strengths. But I was just thinking, would you ever consider working with a virtual assistant?
Oh yeah.
Because I wonder how that would be because, well, I mean, depending on what kind of role the virtual assistant would play.
Yeah, of course. I even had like for some time to have I had last 2 months ago, I had a virtual assistant scheduling my Instagram, because I stopped posting on Instagram because that was one of the things that I know if I want to have business, I have to go fishing, right? But then I didn't have time, so I had virtual assistant doing that. And I would probably, if not pandemic and limited budgets as well, I would love to have someone, doing stuff like this for me. Oh, they wrote, I think, 2 blogs for me, so they could be writing blogs for me. They could be, so all the stuff that that are helping you with business and are actually working. And I know that they would work. So yeah. Just shortly answering your question, I know that would work probably, just having people doing the simple stuff, or like editing, or the stuff that I call monkey job, like editing photos. Man, this is just a waste of time. Just go photo after photo and just click. You don't even think. You just do, right?
Yeah. By the way, I love this metaphor of the fishing. Yeah. I actually really do enjoy it, and it's funny, like when you think of like newcomers to the game that don't really have a grasp of kind of the ins and outs of it, they kind of think, well, I don't want to put words or images into people's heads or whatever, but I remember back in like when I first started, I was like, oh man, there's a gap in the market. My work is really goddamn good. I'm going to come in, and it's kind of like using the fishing analogy. It's like, instead of using a fishing rod, I thought my work was like the TNT. It was the bomb, man. I just chuck it in,
gonna blow.
And I get all these clients because my work was so good. But obviously, I was full of myself back then, which is hilarious. And so I just wonder if there's other newcomers out there. And listeners, if there is, like, if you're new to the industry and you're thinking this way, I would really love you to contact us to see if we can help you, because it's a condition. But so Magic, I want to talk to you about shooting. Because as videographers, we always work alongside different photographers, and it's so interesting to see how everyone approaches it differently. So going back to actually shooting, let's say a couple session. First of all, do you carry that same kind of energy that goes through your brand? Like, are you kind of weird and quirky when you're shooting?
Oh yeah. So that's one, because so that's how it works. That's what they book. They book magic, they get magic. Like, they book what's on website, so they get a guy that is just like the guy on the website. So because that's kind of how my energy goes throughout the wedding day. I get pumped by the emotions and stuff, and I'm running. I'm being funny. Even like that was funny last year. I remember I was booked via wedding planners. So I shot a wedding for my clients that wedding planners were at. I usually don't work with wedding planners, although it's a very great way of doing business, business wise. But the wedding planners loved me, so they are sending me inquiries from time to time. And I was shooting that wedding that I didn't have see the clients beforehand, or they didn't get to see me. So they didn't get that full magic treatment, because that was the sort of the different approach that they go through, they are hands off. The wedding. But then at the wedding, I was myself. So when I was shooting portraits, we were having fun, joking, shooting. Then what I often do, actually I always do recently, I print some photos and put them in the little wooden banana box, and give the couple at the end of the wedding day. And I give photos, and the groom, he gave me cash. He started hugging me. I was like, man, I love you, man. So great. And I don't get tips a lot at weddings. Although it's a nice thing when they come. But that was a funny situation, because most of the time I would imagine that I would get tips by someone that went through that all magic experience and stuff like that. But that was purely on the wedding day. And that's the another funny thing is that usually before wedding, the bride is the one that loves magic, and after the wedding, the groom is the one that loves magic too. Yes. So there's always this, bromance happening at the wedding day, and after the wedding day, the groom is like my bro.
Nice, man. Nice. That's funny. Quite a lot of our clients were Americans, or not even Americans, actually Australian and from all over, coming over and getting eloped. And so I remember the first time we actually got a tip from a client, and it was so bizarre, because it's just not in our culture over here.
Oh, so check this out. The groom that gave me that tip was British. That was a couple from UK. The couple was from UK, wedding in Italy. Couple was from Liverpool, I think.
Oh, right.
Wow.
Okay.
Right?
I don't think it's
magic.
Really common over here to be tipping in general. It's more so with American couples.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So
American
bizarre.
couples, they would do that more often. I think I get tips once from the British couple. That was one time, and one time from Irish couple as well. Which means you made a good service, I think, right? On the wedding day, that they felt that on the wedding day you just did a good job, that you worked. You were helpful or whatever, because sometimes I kind of imagine that photographers are trying to be as hands-off as they can, being like that one creepy dude behind the column, with this 70 to 200 being like and trying to be super invisible. So that's not what I do. I try to be invisible by blending in, by trying to be in that first person perspective. So the photos are not the photos taken from, afar, but I want the photos to, when they look at the photos from the reception or the party or whatever, I want them to see that the couple, that they see it as through their own eyes. When, when the boys are dancing in the circle, I'm dancing in the freaking circle with one hand,
man,
one camera in my hands, and just shooting them, straight in the face of just from few feet. So that my goal, and that usually it ends up like, hey, how do you know them? And I'm like, oh, they found me on the internet and paid me to come here. I was like, oh, sorry, I thought you were one of my friends. Because they usually also not usually, but often I asked you, hey, if you have a free seat at one of the tables, maybe you have a random table of some random guests that that you have to put in the corner, I can be on that table. I prefer to be on that table, because then I see the action from the the first perspective, versus being in the room of vendors in the basement or something like that, you know.
Plus, it also helps when you have that moment of like, you know, if you're in the back and you hear like groups of people clapping, and as a
then you pick
videographer,
your
you're like,
camera
oh my
and
god,
run,
like
right?
I'm missing something. Come on, and you just sprint away.
And then you
Like,
come
if
and
you're with
it's
everyone,
finished, and you
then-
don't know what happened. What was that? It's like, oh no, someone was singing "Happy Birthday"
Everyone's
to
crying. Like,
someone. or something. Yeah.
yeah.
That's
so
exactly
true.
what we try and say to our couples is we want you to feel like we're another guest. We try and blend in and
Yeah.
get to know their family and friends throughout the day, and yeah, it's a good approach to have.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So going back to that shooting with a couple, right? Do you have any techniques? Because when I look at your photographs, they're all lovely. Everyone's having a good time, smiles. Do you have any, like, do you have a thing you do with your couples? Like, I know some photographers play games, or some other photographers, you know, kind of start oddly swearing, or they bring up inappropriate topics, or you know what I mean? Do you have a thing?
Not necessarily. So I'm very outgoing, and you know, trying to be funny, but also trying to feel the vibe of, like, because some of them are more nervous and stressed, some of them are more, you know, loosen up in terms of the portrait time, and most of the times is just relaxed, fun way of, you know, enjoying each other's company and myself taking photos. So no tricks, but sometimes when it's like more nervous atmosphere or something, I do have some of the, you know, like, hey, hold your hands and now look at each other, now run, and you know, but there's no like a certain tricks that I repeat. It's always down to me feeling the couple. Like when you go to my website and there's this photo that the guy is on the beach and the guy is jumping, and it's almost, you know, like spinning in the air, and that was because I was we were on the beach. That was a shoot on a workshop, but they were a real couple, and I get to hang out with them like a little before. And he was all the time, you know, jumping and doing some fun stuff. So I incorporated that into a shoot, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I always try to do. I try to read my couple in terms of, okay, are there gonna, if like, what happens if I'm gonna ask them to dance like on the middle of the street, you know? So if I get to read them before and being like, yeah, that they will go for it. They'll be amazing, and I will go for it, right? But if I feel that I will only stress them out, I obviously won't do it. So it's the wedding of reading your couple and, you know, getting in the right zone with them. I kind of, I wouldn't say I'm a, you know, chameleon, but I can't kind of get into someone's vibe as well, you know, mix in like, and funny thing, sometimes I even start talking weirdly, you know, to to talk like the couple is talking. But yeah, so I might be talking very, my English is like the mix of American Polish English. I'd say that's because of watching movies. But sometimes I would go like, yes, you know, because we go to this, and you jump, okay, you jump. Because if I get a couple that also is not fluent in English, I'm not gonna be, you know, trying to. I'm gonna go the simple way, like yes. In my country we do this. What do you do in your country? You know, we jump. So the way I approach couples would be like purely by reading them and trying to, you know, get the right vibe. There's no like tricks. There's obviously stuff that I would repeat because I know it works, like poses and in terms of posing and stuff like that. But yeah, in general, there's just trying to read them and have a, you know, cool zone together.
Very cool, man. Very cool. So, I mean, Magic, that kind of brings us to the end of the episode. Where can people find you online?
So everywhere online, I'm Magic Wedding Photographer. So it's Instagram, Magic Wedding Photographer. It's YouTube /Magic Wedding Photographer. Website, it's magicweddingphotographer.com. So simple as that. Like Magic
Awesome.
was taken, or just Magic would be impossible for SEO. So it's always Magic Wedding Photographer. 3 words.
Yeah.
That's my brand.
Cool. So listeners, definitely go there and follow Magic, and keep in touch with him. And also and his YouTube stuff, which I find great. And I'm not even a Sony shooter, so have fun. And people can find us at cinematefilms.co.uk on Instagram and Facebook, and on Patreon at patreon.com/perspective by Cinemate. We hope you loved this episode, and if you did, you can join us on Patreon at patreon.com/perspective by Cinemate, where for the price of a coffee every month, you can get access to the Clubhouse Q&As, Roundhouse discussions, and even more bonus content that you won't be able to get anywhere else. If you don't have any money to give, that's okay. Just hit that subscribe button so you know when the next podcast goes online for free. Maybe just consider leaving a review, and we'll give you a shout out. However,
In the meantime,
enjoy your life.